Hey everybody, welcome back to the Engineered Angler. I'm here playing around with some soft baits and retrofitting eyes on soft baits. I'm convinced that eyes make a big difference on a lure, any lure, soft bait or hard bait. Let me show you my technique for retrofitting eyes on soft plastics, even while you're on the boat. Stick around. Well, this lure is just a little wacky. It's got these big bulbous orange eyes. But I think eyes make a big difference. Even on jig heads, I like to have eyes on them, and that's why I carved eyes into that one. But lots of soft baits don't come with eyes on them, and that's just as good. Because, be honest with you, when you do buy them with eyes, like these Berkeley power baits, they're really nice baits. They look great. They look very realistic. But you throw them a few times or they get hit and you end up missing eyes, right? They fall off. These are standard sort of stick-on eyes, 3D eyes that you get for your hard baits. And they put them on there, I imagine, just with the adhesive that they have behind it. Maybe they put a little crazy glue or something, but they don't stay on. And even with lures that have been clear dipped, even that tends to sort of delaminate. So I came up with this technique that I can use either on the boat or while I'm in my garage prepping for a trip. It's based on taking a lure and you just punch a hole through it and then put in your eye assembly. Let me show you first how I make my eye assemblies. So here are the eye assemblies. I keep a little box of these in my tackle box all the time, and essentially they're two little eyes on an axle or a little central rod. So I want to demonstrate how much of an effect it actually has on just a simple lure like this. Actually, this is a pretty nice looking shrimp, and you can take a look here. You can see that it has a little sort of dangling eye. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this little eye off since it really doesn't show up because it doesn't have any contrast. And I'm going to take my little punching tool, and this is simply just a piece of aluminum tubing that's been sharpened. And it doesn't have to be razor sharp or anything. It just needs to be sharp enough so it'll go through the soft rubber, and that doesn't take much. So I've already punctured through, and you can see the little piece of rubber that it leaves. And I'll come in here and get myself a pair of eyes that are dark, but these actually have a little bit of color shift to them, which is kind of cool. And then I'm just going to poke the whole thing through the hole. And you can see how much more alive the one with the dark eyes really looks. So to me, it's worth that added 15-20 seconds to go ahead and poke through it, give it a set of eyes, and then put it on my hook. So what I like to use is some annealed wire. You can use any annealed wire as long as it's pretty close to or just under 0.045 inches. And that's because most beads that you get have that diameter hole in it. What I do is I go ahead and I'm going to cut it. I'm going to cut the length up much longer than I really need, just so I can demonstrate to you. And then you can buy beads of any color, any shape you want to. These happen to be diamond shaped. I kind of like the way it reflects light. Start again. Okay, so once you've got your beads selected, they'll fit right onto the wire and move freely. What I like to do, and the reason this has to be annealed wire, is I'll take a pair of pliers and holding it on the flat spot of the pliers way back, I'll create a flat spot on this wire. Let me show you what I'm talking about. And hopefully you can see that that little end of that wire has been flattened. And what that does is just kind of widens that wire out, so it's a little bigger than the diameter of the inside diameter of the bead. And then you can just push the bead up onto it. And you might have to give it a good hard crimp, or a couple good hard crimps, before you get it to actually be wide enough to really hold the bead. And then you want to shove the bead on there, and it should stay really pretty firmly. And this technique works really good on plastic beads. Glass beads, not so much, because if you put a glass bead in here and you try to wedge the metal into it, it'll kind of shatter the bead. For the second eye, you just do the exact same thing. You get the measurement for the width of your fish or whatever kind of lure you have, and then you cut it. Give it a good hard crimping. And depending whether your lure has like a real thick cross section or a real thin one, like this little fish, you'll have to make that axle part, the connector between those two eyes, longer or shorter. So let's just go ahead and poke this in to the little hole I made already. And all you do is just shove it through and it just falls right in place. And now you have a little lure with a little more character and more likely to garner a strike. So what I'll do generally is make a bunch of these eye sets, a few different sizes, some different colors, and then I'll just keep them in a little container, and I'll keep that in my tackle box, and I'll keep the little punch tool in there too. So there's a little bit of a side benefit to doing this, and that is you actually are able to keep a worm hook on there a little better by routing the worm hook around the metal connector, that little rod in there, so that it lays up like that. You actually end up with a way of anchoring this thing in so it doesn't sort of slide out on you. And everybody out there has had a lure just barely catch on something in the water and then shove back onto the shaft of the worm hook, and then it's basically ruined because it sort of gets ripped right in here. But with this, you actually have the eyes keeping that lure from riding up in the shaft. And that's really obvious with a long, really slender and soft bait like this. I'll make sure it goes just past the eyes and then come back down. And now I've got eyes and I've got my worm hook locked in, so this worm will not shove back. Whether you do it just purely for aesthetics, like this wacky looking thing, or you want it to enhance that natural look, or you want to get it to keep your hook in there, this is a really nice method. So you go out there and get your favorite looking bead and make yourself some bead eyes for your soft baits. It's real easy to do. It's easy to keep this stuff on board and quickly put some eyes on your lures that really enhance the number of hits you're going to get when you're out there fishing. So thank you for watching, and if you haven't subscribed, certainly subscribe, and if you've got questions or any suggestions, offer them up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.